Hey guys, I'm Ronan and welcome back to the channel. Today we are taking a look at the Necrolock, a necromancer-esque warlock themed build, mixing melee damage, summons, and spellcasting, so a hybrid of all three. If you were looking for a necromancer build that is purely summon as many undead as you possibly can, check out the description down below because it has a link to my wizard necromancer build, and it may be more so what you're looking for since the Necrolock does play a little differently. Before we break this video down, I'm going to say thank you to all my members. I really appreciate you guys. If you guys want to get early access to videos, shout out to my videos, and some additional perks for my live streams, hit join down below. Let's go ahead and break this video down. The concept of this build revolves around utilizing melee attacks that do additional necrotic damage in combination with the ability to CC or mess around with your targets. You can utilize darkness to your advantage. You have your pets to also CC the targets, such as Fear with your mummy, or utilizing the cold elemental to knock enemies prone. Overall, you are sort of a jack of all trades between melee, summons, and ranged magic. Alright ladies and gentlemen, it is time to talk my Warlock Necrolock build. So the cool thing about Warlocks is the fact that you get a subclass as soon as you create your character. All three have their own benefits, but I do think the Fiend and the Great Old One are the best of the three. The Great Old One specifically is if you go to use crit stacking gear, because you get Mortal Reminder, which is extremely powerful. When you crit, that creature has to make a saving throw, and enemies near that creature need to make a saving throw as well, and if not, they become frightened. And frightened is such a powerful debuff in this game. It makes enemies to where they can't move, so melee enemies are pretty much pseudo CC'd there. They have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls as well. It is such a great debuff. But if you don't plan to use any crit stacking gear, then the Great Old One isn't for you. The Fiend, however, I think is better overall because the Fiend will give you Dark One's Blessing, and this will scale with your Warlock level as well, so whenever you kill someone, you'll get temporary hit points back. It also gives you more exclusive spells that I think are going to be a little bit more useful compared to the Great Old One. So for the showcase for this build, I will go Fiend, but if you do end up going with a ton of like crit stacking stuff, the Great Old One is very powerful. Now looking at my ability scores here, they probably seem a little odd to you, and I'll talk about why in a little bit when we get the feats, but I do want to state now at the beginning of this video, I plan to use medium armor for this build. There's some really powerful medium armor you can get that's really nice, and I want to use it. Warlocks, however, don't come with medium armor proficiency, they come with light armor proficiency, so we will have to take a feat in order to get it. So if you plan to use light armor or use any type of robes, then you don't need that feat. And if you are playing a class like Githyanki, for example, or race I should say, that already has medium armor proficiency, then you can save yourself a feat as well. Skill proficiency, pick whatever you wish, but I would recommend at least taking one type of charisma based interaction since we will get max charisma. I went with intimidation. The three feats that we will go for this build will be Actor, that way we can get a charisma all the way up to 20 along with ability improvement. I am also taking moderately armored here. This will give you medium armor proficiency and shield proficiency as well. As mentioned before, if you are playing a race that already has medium armor proficiency, or you decide to use the Hag's Hair, then you get a free feat of your choosing. Warlocks also at level 3 get to pick a Pact boon. For this build, we are going with Pact of the Blade. The reason for that is because there aren't that many great necromancy spells overall, and the ones I like utilizing for the most part are usually melee range spells anyway. So if you're already in range to attack with your melee weapon, then might as well have a melee spell, right? Pact of the Tome is okay, and although you will get the ability to help out with summoning undead with Pact of the Tome, it's not that great overall because what you actually receive is considered an action and not a spell, so you can't upcast it. As mentioned in the beginning of the video, if you want a pure undead summon build, then check out my wizard necromancer. One thing unique to Warlocks as well is going to be Eldritch Invocations. Although the amount you can choose will go up as you level up and you'll get better ones as you level, I'm going to showcase all of them you can see on screen now. At level 12, you get your final one, which is going to be Life Drinker. This is fantastic. Melee attacks do additional damage equal to your charisma modifier as necrotic. I really love this because it kind of fits like with the whole Necrolock theme, doing additional necrotic damage and things like that, which is why we take it. I went with Minion of Chaos in order to have a elemental here, and I think these elementals are very powerful, which is why I went with that. I ended up going with Agonizing Blast, so my Eldritch Blast will do additional damage to my Charisma modifier. I went with Beguiling Influence. Because we have high Charisma, I now have proficiency in Deception and Persuasion. Depending on what race and background you chose, you may not even need this, but I wanted it so I could have this guy as the face of my party. I went with Devil Sight, that way I can be immune to any type of blindness, whether it's magical darkness or regular darkness. Like, I can see. It's extremely powerful the way I like playing this build. And I went with Repelling Blast. I do want to state here, Book of Ancient Secrets is garbage. By the time you get this, Ray of Sickness, the Chromatic Orb are really terrible. You can't upcast these. The damage they do is really low by the time you get this one. I would not recommend getting this whatsoever. The other ones I would recommend if you don't want to take Beguiling Influence. I do think if you want like Enhanced Sleep, it could be somewhat useful. Dreadful Word is very powerful because I think Confusion is such a strong spell, so that may be something you may want to consider. And the last thing unique to the Warlock is at level 11, you get Mystic Arcanum, which allows you to essentially use a level 6 type spell for free, basically using it as an action. We're going with the ability to create undead here, that way we can get our mummy and have an additional summon as needed. Alright, let's go over spells, shall we? So obviously cantrip wise, Eldritch Blast is a must pick no matter what you do. I went with Bone Chill as well because I do find preventing the target from being able to heal in their next turn can be pretty useful in certain scenarios. The other two are realistically up to you. I went with Poison Spray because I think it fits a necromancer-esque kind of theme pretty well. At level 11, you get your Mystic Arcanum. I went with Create Undead. Although you can use this spell using a ring in Act 3, this way you don't have to actually use a ring, and it actually counts as an action when you go to do it, so it's not even a spell anyway. So why waste a ring, and you can let someone else use it. Now when it comes to all your other spells here, so I did go with my armor. I think getting the extra temporary hit points is really nice. Getting the cold damage back to attackers is also pretty powerful. I think it's awesome to have. I went with Arms of Adar. This thing is cool because if you're in an AoE situation and you need to get out, you can use this, and assuming the enemies don't actually pass their saving throws, they will not be able to take reactions. So you can use this and run away. It's really powerful. Or use this and let someone else in your team run away as well. Really, really nice. Curse, or Hex I should say, is something just to do a little bit of extra necrotic damage. We take this mainly because it's a concentration spell, and we talk about armor and things like that. This is nice to have because it will give you additional damage. Specifically, if you pair this with Eldritch Blast or you pair that with Scorching Ray, you can pop out some extreme burst from range, which is really nice to have. I took Misty Step just to have it. You only have 3 spell slots once you get to level 11 as a Warlock, so you need to use your spells efficiently here, although they do recharge in short rest. Misty Step, in my opinion, is more so for emergency situations, so you don't have to waste your spell slots, but it is nice to have when you need it. I already talked about Scorching Ray, so we will move over to Cloud of Daggers. This thing, in my opinion, is just very powerful. When you upcast it, it does even more damage, and it's such a great spell because you can use this and then knock enemies into it with Eldritch Blast. Darkness is a must-have. This build, we are immune to being blind in darkness, and this is fantastic because depending on how you set up your party, you can have an entire darkness party where everyone can be immune to darkness and you can just completely demolish enemies. It's very powerful. It stops rangers and other spellcasters from spellcasting into you. I love it. Such a great spell. Hunger of Adar is similar. It does blind targets, but you don't want to walk into this because this will end up affecting you as well. But this is nice to have just to mess around with your enemies. It sets up a field that is hard for them to walk out of. It sets up a field to where you can really just put the pain on the enemy, in my opinion. and it's kind of a twisted spell to really just mess with your enemies, in my opinion. Now, Vampiric Touch is another spell we went with, and you will notice there's only really like 2 to 3 necrotic spells in the game in general that are pretty useful. I like Vampiric Touch here, although it doesn't do a ton of damage. I like it because it will heal you, which is very powerful. We get temporary hit points whenever we kill someone, and if we need to heal ourselves without using a potion, we can attack the enemy and heal that way as well. Counterspell is one of those spells that, depending on what the spellcaster is using, this is a great way to negate it. On honor mode, this can certainly save your life, which is why I took it. Fire Shield is one of the reasons we went with the actual Warlock subclass that we chose, the Fiend. Fire Shield is very powerful. You can choose cold or fire damage. So if you're playing with someone that like gets the enemy wet, for example, and they go to attack you in melee, well, not only will you do double damage from your armor, if you choose the cold version of this, the cold version will also do double damage. I went with Blight just to have another necromancy spell. That way I can kind of have more of necrotic magic if I needed it. This spell is decent. It does good damage. Compare this to your Vampiric Touch here. You can definitely see the damage difference here. Is it worth using all the time? That really depends on the situation, but it is nice to have. We went with Conjure Elemental because I think the elementals are extremely powerful to have, and they can do all kinds of crazy stuff in the game. And the last spell, realistically, is going to be up to you. I went with Flame Strike here, though, because this is a great AoE spell. It is very, very large, in my opinion. Like, it's a really good AoE where it can do a good amount of damage without taking up like space and hurting your allies. So I like it a lot. It's what I went with. Now, when it comes to some other passive features here that we should talk about, so you do have your Repelling Blast that you can turn on and off. So you can go like that and you will no longer knock enemies back. Turn it back on and every hit from Eldritch Blast will knock the enemy backwards. Because we went with the Fiend subclass, you get your Dark One's own luck. So once per short rest, you can add a 1d10 to an ability check, which is pretty cool. You also have Fiendish Resilience. Another reason why we went with the subclass that we chose. I think this is great because you can literally choose a damage type and become not immune, but resistant to it for a while. So if you know you're going to be fighting, like say, a lot of necrotic damage, you can become resistant to it. You can choose any element you want, any type of like melee damage that you want. It is very, very powerful. So if you know you're going to be fighting like a lot of rangers that shoot bows, piercing could be very useful to you. And the last thing we should talk about is going to be your Pact of the Blade. This is what makes the Warlock, in my opinion, really fun, is the fact that you can use any melee weapon that you want in the game, and as long as you use your Bind Pact on it, it will scale with Charisma for damage and hit chance. Really fantastic. You don't need any proficiencies because it will automatically make you proficient with your weapon. Let's go ahead and talk about gear. Alright guys, for gear, the reason I wanted medium armor proficiency is for when you go to Shar's Temple. If you choose the evil path and kill the Night Song, not only will you get the legendary spear, which will make you immune to blindness, so you can give that to a friend, so they will be immune to blindness and can also go into darkness clouds and just demolish people along with you. But you will get 2 other powerful items I really want to point out. You get the Dark Justicier's half plate, an upgraded version of the one you find in the temple. This gives you everything that the other one gives, but it's a little different. So you get 1 extra AC. You have advantage on Constitution saving throw checks, which is nice because we will always have some type of concentration spell up. You get Shar's Aegis, which will give you 2 AC. But what's unique to the Dark Justiciar half plate is while you do have that up, you take reduced damage by 2, which is fantastic. And any attacker that attacks you, you do 1d4 necrotic damage back to the attacker, which I think is really awesome. And I think it kind of fits the whole like necrotic theme we're going for here. Obviously, if you go with the good path, you can't get the upgraded version of this, but that's okay because the Dark Justiciar half plate is still very solid. and it gives us the advantage on constitution saving throw checks that we want. Now, if you don't want to wear either of these, you could go with the adamantine scale mail. All incoming damage reduced by 2. Melee attacks that miss make the attacker go reeling, or I should say when a melee attack hits you, they get sent reeling, and they can't land crits. It's a very solid chest piece, and if you plan to use this chest piece instead, I would recommend possibly using the helmet you get in Act 3. That way you can have advantage on concentrating saving throws, and you gain momentum equal to your charisma modifier, which is a movement buff. So that's actually pretty crazy, because you can see it's 5 feet per turn of duration. Well, this is insane because our charisma modifier is 5. That's a lot of extra movement for your first 5 turns of the match, which is very, very solid, and I think it looks pretty cool. Now let's talk about helmets here. So if you want to have an extra animated creature with you, you can use the Circle of Bones. And I do want to showcase something here. When you use it, there are going to be 2 options you can go with. You have the option to do a zombie or a skeleton. Now, I think the skeleton here is going to be superior. And the reason for that is its range, so the chances of it dying are going to be a little less. The zombie's hit chance are pretty low, but the zombie, I don't know if this is a bug or intended after the latest patch, but watch what happens when I use it now. Everything seems normal, right? Look, he's taking damage. So that is really unfortunate, meaning this zombie is just going to die. So you'll never really get a chance to utilize the zombies all that well, but the skeletons don't have that issue, which is why I think the skeleton in this case is going to be superior. Now, for those who are thinking, well, couldn't you go Pact of the Tome to get a permanent like summon dead ability? You could, but you can't upcast that. It counts as an action. So why waste that and give up Pact of the Blade, in my opinion? Now, other helmets that are also going to be extremely useful. Obviously, you have the Birthright that you get in Act 3. I think this is the go-to helmet if you pair it with the Dark Justiciar half plate here, because this will give you 22 charisma once you get the max level, which is fantastic because that will give you a +6 hit chance, +6 damage, and because we did take your life drinker, it will give you +6 necrotic damage as well instead of +5. So it is pretty dang powerful. And with the dye I used the black and white Harley Quinn dye. I think I look pretty dang cool. Now, another reason I wanted to go evil for this playthrough is because of the gloves. The Dark Justiciar gauntlets that you have here are fantastic. They are just an upgraded version of the regular Justiciar gauntlets you can find in Shar's Temple, doing 1d4 necrotic damage. So even if you use the regular gauntlets, the extra necrotic damage you do on weapon attacks is nice, but the Dark Justiciar gauntlets you get for killing the Night Song gives you Beckoning Darkness. This is a bonus action, already fantastic, but this spell is so powerful. Creatures are literally haunted by their darkness. They take 2 to 16 necrotic damage if they enter or start their turn in a lightly or heavily obscured area. Because we are going to be immune to blindness, you are going to be using darkness a lot, and it is such a fantastic way to do additional damage to the enemy, especially considering you can knock enemies back with Eldritch Blast, so you can knock them back into the darkness, which will then also proc this as well. Of course, if you don't want to use that, you could use the downgraded version. Very similar, just doesn't have Beckoning Darkness a part of it. Or if you would rather have something else like the Flawed Helldust gloves, if you want extra dexterity, whatever gloves you want to use instead, feel free, but to keep the necrotic theme, those are the gloves I recommend. Now early on, you do have the Daredevil gloves I do want to give a shout out to. Having the ability to use ranged spells as a melee spell is very powerful, especially since you have Eldritch Blast, which you can use to knock someone back. So if you are threatened, those are a pretty useful pair of gloves to have. Now when it comes to your boots, use whatever boots you like. The Nightwalkers are kind of just like one of my go-to boots because they are so powerful in this game. If you don't want to use these, feel free to use anything else. Obviously in Act 3 you get Boots of Persistence, also extremely powerful. Freedom of movement plus Longstrider is very nice, and it is medium armor, which is fantastic since we can use that. Feel free to use anything else though. You do also have like evasive shoes if you want extra AC and things like that. Your rings here, in my opinion, because I'm going for like a necrotic darkness type kind of theme here, I like using the Strange Conduit ring. We will have so many different concentration spells up all the time. So that just makes your attacks do another 1d4 psychic damage, which is powerful because even if you use the regular Dark Justiciar's half plate, you still get Shard's Aegis. So even if you don't want to use darkness and you would rather just buff yourself for extra AC, well guess what? We now have the extra AC and all of our attacks will do another 1d4 psychic. I'm also using the Shadow Cloaked ring here. Your weapon attacks deal additional 1d4 damage against lightly or heavily obscured creatures or creatures of shadow. You get this in Act 2. I love this ring with this build. We are setting up so many different darkness fields. This is just very powerful. I like this as well because if you do have a rogue that uses the cloak to set up fog clouds, you can pair that with that as well, and it's so powerful. I really like it a lot. Now my neck piece here, the spectator eyes, I thought just kind of like fit the theme of being a necromancer-esque kind of build. You get it in Act 1, so it is something you can use pretty early on. Neck wise, realistically, use whatever you wish. Now when it comes to your shields, even if you don't have built-in shield proficiency, if you did take the feats I talked about, when you get medium armor, you will also get shield proficiency. So that's when the adamantine shield comes in, giving you another +2 AC. You can't be crit, and attackers are sent reeling. Just a fantastic shield. Very, very powerful. If you don't want to use this and maybe you want to use the adamantine stuff for different armor, realistically use any other shield that you want. The Catholic shield's very powerful. Sentinel shield. If you want to be even tankier, the sled board here giving you force conduit is also very nice. So use whatever you wish shield wise. Weapon here, there's quite a few different weapons in the game. Because Pact of the Blade allows you to use any weapon you want that is a melee weapon, realistically, use whatever you want. That being said, I do have some specific recommendations I want to talk about. So you have the Infernal Rapier. You get this if you do have our good friend Will with you when you attack Moonrise Towers and you complete his quest. The reason we would want to use this is for the extra 1 bonus to spell save DC, but you get the Cambion you can summon as well, which is a very powerful summon. Combine that with your Create Undead Mummy and your Conjure Elemental, and you have a pretty nice setup for some minions. And if you did happen to use the Necromancy of Thay, you can use Dance Macabre and summon 4 ghouls as well, so you can have like a mini army regardless. Now, besides that, I do think there are 2 other weapons that are going to be extremely powerful with this build. So in Act 3, you get Belm, fantastic weapon. It has the cool perfectly balanced strike, which you can use once per turn. So you can use your bonus action to attack the enemy again. So every single time you attack, if you plan to attack, you can attack 3 times every single turn, which is pretty damn powerful. You could do something similar with the legendary here. The only difference is with the legendary, you will have to unequip it. So your AC will go down, but this legendary is extremely powerful. It is so strong. It already has built-in necrotic damage. It has the ability to attack with a bonus action, like I said, but it also gives you Withering Cut, allowing you to do additional necrotic damage as a reaction. And it also gives you a bonus reaction, so you can just stack up the damage extremely high with this thing. And it is such a great weapon, but you do have to sacrifice your shield. So it's going to be up to you on whether you would want to do that or not. And then lastly, the only other weapon I would want to really talk about is going to be the legendary spear that you get for killing the Night Song, the Spear of Evening. This thing is extremely powerful, but I don't think you should use it for this build. You already had the option to be immune to blindness because of Devil Sight as the Warlock. So I would recommend giving Shar Spear of Evening to someone else. That way you can have someone else in your party also be immune to blindness. Now, of course, if you went the good route, you wouldn't have this anyway. Anyway, guys, that's gear. Lastly, bow, use whatever you wish. The Hellrider longbow is kind of like my default here for a lot of builds because it gives you +3 bonus to initiative, which is never a bad thing, even if you're not proficient with it. All right, with that being said, it's time to do combat. All right, guys, for the combat showcase, I'm going to showcase 2 different combats here. I'm going to showcase it with the really powerful gear, the Dark Justicier's half plate in combination with the Duelist Prerogative. And then I will also show combat without that for those who did go the good route. That way you can't get the upgraded gloves and chest piece. I will showcase combat with the other weapons and stuff we talked about. Now, I already did kind of pre-buff myself here. I summoned my elemental. I got my mummy created as well. So I'm actually going to have my elemental here open up on the enemy. That way he can try and just get some really cool damage in. What's great about the elemental is the fact that he can warp and all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to have him warp over here and do an AoE, trying to hit all 3 people. And the reason I like this guy is the fact that he can put ice fields on the ground. And because we are using the Nightwalkers, I can't fall prone, which is pretty dang cool. Alright, so now that it's my turn, I'm going to open up and kind of just showcase the power of how strong it is to set up a bunch of damage with this weapon here. So let's open up on the guy in front of us, shall we? So from 1 hit there, we had the 14 piercing, 4 necrotic, 1 psychic, 6 necrotic, and then another 4 necrotic. So how about we attack again? Critical miss. Well, I guess we're going to use the bonus action to attack. And he's dead. And that extra psychic damage came from Call of the Weak down there. Such a great ability to have. Alright, so now for my next turn, maybe I want to summon more ghouls instead of attacking again. So if that's the case, let's go ahead and summon a bunch right here, shall we? And I'm going to move over here, and I'm actually going to hope this guy attacks me because I do want to showcase the retaliation damage I can do like this as well. Now, the ghouls you summon with the necromancy of they can't be controlled, so they will just auto attack stuff. And you can see they do have the ability to explode when they die and take a lot of damage, which is what just happened here, and he took a ton of damage on his turn. Alright, so now it's this guy's turn again. Because I opened up with him, I can't actually attack, so we'll just end his turn. Well, he missed all of his attacks, a little unfortunate. So I'm going to have my little zombie guy here try to use Dreadful Glare on this enemy here. 15% chance is not a lot. Let's try using it on him instead to get him feared. So he's frightened, which is nice because the mummy allows you to frighten enemies. And once enemies are frightened, then you can use your really strong multi-attack. So I'm going to go ahead and actually use a spell slot here to stop her from doing that. She fell prone again. Alright, so now that it's my turn, let's go ahead and open up then with darkness. I'm immune. I don't want him to attack in my darkness. So we're going to go like this. These guys are all blinded, which is great because that means I also have advantage on them since I'm not blinded. And we're going to attack her on the ground. So that was a good amount of damage there. And you can see the damage was even higher. Not only did I crit a little bit there, but I did get the extra Shadow Thief damage, which came from my ring, and all the extra like necrotic and stuff like that. So she just got it completely obliterated. So we do have this guy up here. So I'm going to move on over. And I'm going to use my bonus action to attack him again. All right, it's this guy's turn. I'm going to try to set up an ice field here. So if this guy goes to move, he will fall. I knocked him prone. Fantastic. He's frightened, so he couldn't really move anyway, but I still knocked him prone. All right, so now since he is still frightened, I can have my little mummy guy come on over. We're going to have him jump. That way he doesn't get hit by the ice. And I'm going to use multi-attack on this target here. And I killed him. Goodbye. What's really great about his attacks too is you can apply Mummy Rot, which prevents the enemy from healing, and its max HP is reduced. So they are really nice debuffers to have on your team. This guy's just never gonna hit me. It's so funny. Oh, he actually did. All right, so my haste potion ran out, which is why I lost my turn there, which is fine. I'm going to have this guy teleport back here. And of course, I do have my multi-attack I could do, or I have slam, which also puts a puddle of water around the impact surface, which is nice because that will get the enemy wet. And because of the extra cold stuff of this guy, if they attack me, they would take double damage. But I really like Winter's Breath because of the chance to knock enemies prone. Oh, she fell because of the ice. Alright, now that it's my turn again, you can see I still have temporary hit points here because I was killing enemies. But maybe I needed to heal. Let's go with Vampiric Touch. Now I did 36 damage. I'm back up to full HP. Fantastic. You have this target all the way over here. I can almost get to him to attack him, but he's just slightly out of my range, which is a little unfortunate. So for my bonus actions then, I don't really have much else I can do other than get near him, which is never a bad thing. All right, now I'm going to reload this again so I can show you the power of Beckoning Darkness, and then we'll switch to the other gear, okay? All right, so this time I changed out my weapon and shield here so I could showcase that a little bit. I still have the upgraded armor, and I'll do the regular showcase for the other gear after this. But now I do want to showcase why I like Beckoning Darkness here, especially in combination with your darkness itself, or in combination with some other things like Hadar, for example. So we're going to go ahead and start out using Hadar on the enemy. All right, so let's go ahead and use Beckoning Darkness on someone. Now the only issue with Beckoning Darkness though is I have to be close to them, so keep that in mind. So I used it on him, and that was my bonus action, which means I still have multiple actions I can do on the enemy, which is really damn cool. So we're going to go ahead and use Eldritch Blast here to try to knock the enemies as far back as we can. We'll hit you. We'll hit you. We'll hit that guy up there. And for my next spell here, let's go ahead. I want to use something that isn't going to actually cost concentration because I want to keep Hadar up. So one thing we could do then, if you take a look at our spell list, you remember that big damage I said Flame Strike is nice for AoE? That's what we're going to do, and we're going to use it on these targets here in front of us. They were Sades, which is a little unfortunate, but they still had some decent damage. And I'm actually going to move back this way slightly. That way they have to run to me if they want to damage me. I have him frightened, so he's stuck in Hadar. He has beckoning darkness on him, so when it comes to his turn, he's going to take a lot of damage. You can see he took damage just for being in it at the start of his turn. The field is a hard field to go over. I'm going to have my guy come right to the edge here. We are going to use Winter's Breath and try to get some prone areas here for them to walk on to make it even harder to get across. And we're going to use his bonus action and come back this way. That way they can't physically attack him. They'd have to actually come out. Look at that. Extra damage from necrotic and the extra frost damage. He ends his turn and takes even more damage. I really love that combination of Beckoning Darkness with Hadar right there. It's so fun and I really like it a lot. Wow, that was actually pretty smart to knock him out. Well, now that it's my turn and they knock this guy out, how about we go over and just kill him, shall we? It's a good amount of damage. He's almost dead, so we'll attack him one more time. He's gone. Now you can see I got all these guys over here in the middle, but they are in Hadar and I don't want to break my Hadar. So what we can do instead, let's use a bonus action. I could cancel it if I really wanted to. If I had an extra spell slot, I could use something like my ability to cast Hex on someone, something like that. Instead, we're going to go in it, even though this is going to hurt me. And I'll get the field and stuff. But I want to showcase Whirlwind Attack, which is really nice because it's on a weapon here, Blem. So let's go ahead and use that. Hit everyone around me. I get all that extra healing or self-healing, extra HP from the Fiend. There's a bonus action to attack him. And you can kind of see how this playstyle here also plays out compared to the other one. So let's go ahead and take a look at combat now without any of the upgraded stuff, with just some of the regular gear we talked about. Alright, and for the final showcase, I did switch my gear around a little bit here. I went with the adamantine scale mail, and I did go with the other hat we talked about earlier. That way I still have advantage on concentration saving throws, but I also get a lot of momentum. Now, the reason I say that is because, you may have someone else in your party that may want to use Birthright instead of you. I ended up going with the sled board since I don't need the adamantine shield here. Weapon's still the same, but to make up for the extra modifier that I lost, I did give this the Drakethroat Glaive buff to give it extra hit chance and a little bit of extra damage. So we're going to go in and start combat now. So I'm going to go ahead and, but instead of myself opening up on the enemies, I'm actually going to have my guy open up on the enemy and try to get one of these targets wet. So I'm going to have him come up. All right, and you can see she is chilled, so she's going to take extra damage from cold, which is nice. So for myself, what I could end up doing, I'm going to go in and I want to get some type of concentration spell going pretty much right away. So our options for that are going to be Hex, it's going to be Darkness, Hadar, or Vampiric Touch. The benefit of having Vampiric Touch pretty much right away is the fact that you can use it again without using a spell slot. So that's how I'm going to open up here. So we'll do that now and use it on the target in front of us. So now you can see I can use it again if I wanted as an action without the need. And because it is a melee like type kind of spell, I think it fits with the whole like Pact of the Blade kind of play style. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and actually just use my Dance Macabre here to summon more little ghouls because I think they're just really fun to have. But from my buffs though, I have a ton of buffs already, which is really nice. And I have my bonus action still, and because I am using that short sword earlier, I can still attack regardless. And that did a decent amount of damage regardless. All right, now I'll just end my turn and let them do their thing. Now the ghouls have a chance when they attack to paralyze the enemy, which is really, really powerful when it procs, because then you get a 100% chance to crit on that target. So kind of like before, I'm going to try and fear a target. So let's go ahead and try fearing this guy in the back. He's frightened. Hell yeah. I'm not going to use my counterspell this time. Instead, I'm going to use Backlash, and I'll just let her heal the enemies. It's fine. With my extra ghouls, I don't think I need to waste the spell slot on counterspell at this point. All right, so we're going to go ahead, and this guy, he's like in a bad position. I could teleport him out, but I also like using him as a body to get hits on, so I'll just leave him there. Man, it'd be really nice if the guys hit me so I could do my retaliation damage. All right, so now that is my turn. We're going to go ahead and decide to kind of, I don't want to say blow up the enemy, but one thing I really like doing is using like Misty Step, for example, to go and like in the middle of everyone. I could use my Arms of Adar here. I wish I were slightly closer, so instead let's just go up a little bit closer here. I should hit all three from this. Did some okay damage. So let's go ahead now and follow up just by simply attacking like we did before. Except this time I'm going to do Whirlwind to hit both of these guys here. Oh, I missed my follow-up attack. That's a little unfortunate. All right, my zombie here. This guy's still frightened, so he can't move. Let's try to frighten someone else. Maybe this guy up here. I love having the mummy as like just a frightened bot because it's so powerful. I don't want her to heal again, so we're going to counterspell. All right, so she's about to die. Can I hit her and the other guy at the same time? Maybe? Yes. Oh, that guy died just from attacking me. And my haste potion ran out, which is why my turn ended, but I am going to use Backlash on the enemy just to get some extra damage in. Alright, this guy is right in front of my zombie's face, so he's just going to attack, or my mummy I should say. And he missed. He died from attacking me. It's back to my little guy right here, so he will attack. So long. Not the mummy. All right, it is now my turn. So one thing we could do if I needed to heal, I'm pretty much at full HP, so I don't have to use my vampiric touch here if I didn't want to. This guy's got 14 HP, so instead what we can end up doing, we can attack him. This attack will most likely kill the enemy, and then we will do 2 on this guy. except it missed. Wow. All right. We're going to use our bonus action to attack him then. It missed again. Damn. I guess not having that extra modifier really makes a difference, but that's crazy to get that many misses. All right, mommy. You're gonna do some damage this time. There you go. Good job, buddy. All right, and now with my final turn, we are going to attempt to come up here. You can see he's a little out of range, so I could try to jump to him, but my strength isn't that high. So the only choice I really have is to attack him from ranged. He has 18 HP. This is 3d8 or Eldritch Blast, which without a doubt should kill him. And that's basically how you play the build, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe. I know this playstyle probably isn't what a lot of people thought when it comes to a Necrolock, like a Necromancer-esque lock, but realistically, there's not that many good necromancy spells in the game. The ones I like using for this build specifically are Blight or Vampiric Touch, and Vampiric Touch is a melee skill anyway, which is why I like the whole melee hybrid with it. I said it before in the beginning of the video, but if you do want a full summoner build that does as many zombies, ghouls, and everything like that, check out my Wizard Necromancer, link in the description down below. I'm Ronan, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.